Right. I think we might get underway and then obviously people can join us as and when they
Of course.
can. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. So thank you for everyone who's joined us. This is the sixth in Lunch and Learn this academic year. And the Lunch and Learns are just a very relaxed session for about 45 minutes. And each week every other week when we do them, we invite a guest founder to come along and join us and um, tell us a little bit about their sort of story, their journey, and then we have a Q&A. And everyone on the call, um, welcome to pop some questions in the chat, and we'll keep an eye on those, or raise your hand if you'd like to ask your question out loud of Adam. Um, so we're absolutely delighted to have Adam Farrell join us today. Adam is the founder of what, say 106 Tech or
What
106?
106, you got it in one.
One,
There it.
106 Tech. So Adam, I'll pass the floor over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. I won't talk for ages. I'll give you a bit of a background to my journey there. So I'll talk you through that. I also spend a lot of time from the nature of my job with other founders. So hopefully I can share a few things there that maybe they've experienced, both some of the hardships and the good bits of what they go through. And yeah, if you guys ever go on that journey, yeah, hopefully you can take some of that stuff with you. So yeah, thanks, Caroline. I run 106 recruitment. So I've been doing that now into my third year of running that business, and it's a tech recruitment business, right? So what I do is I work with companies who are looking to hire talent into their tech businesses, which often means I'm dealing at founder level. Most of my clients I work with are founders running businesses between the size of anywhere from 5 employees up to 100 is typically what I work with. So all day, every day, working with other founders. I also get involved in a lot of community-based stuff as well. So a big thing what I like to do is what I call a founders lunch club. So yeah, once every 3 months we get together, just 10 and traditionally tech founders in a room. We have some lunch and we share ideas, share the challenges of what's going on in those businesses, and have a bit of an honest chat and a chance for them to sort of expand their founder network. And I'll get onto network and stuff like that as we go through. So a little bit about my background then. So, humble beginnings. I am a council estate lad. So, I grew up in a place in Leamington called Sydenham on a council estate called Fowler Hill with a single mother, one of 5 children, the oldest of 5 children. And at that time, I had no plans to run my own business or anything like that, really. But I definitely knew that I wanted to change the situation, I guess, that I was in. So, I was the first person in my family ever to go to university. I dropped out of university. It's probably not a good thing to say on a call like this, but I dropped out of university after my second year. I found I very much enjoyed the social aspect. Maybe I wasn't quite as academic as I first thought. Um, and then during university, I've always worked. So I spent a lot of time working in Argos, actually, for a long period of time. And I think it's a great place if you go to retail to really learn how to deal with people, learn how to really graft, and yeah, learn that element of hard work. And I thought I was set at Argos. I thought this is probably me. I was a customer service manager. I was en route to become store manager, and I thought I was always going to end up in that role. So I set myself a deadline. I said, look, if I'm not store manager by this date, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to try something else. That's one thing I've always been quite good at is saying something and sticking to it as well. So that date came and went, and I wasn't store manager. So I started looking around for things that I might be able to do, and I ended up in recruitment. At the time, I didn't really know what it was, but I knew that there was a slightly entrepreneurial nature to it, in the fact that you go there, you win clients, you build up your network, and it's almost like a mini business within a business. And I was really excited by that. So I can control my own earnings. I like that entrepreneurship style. So I did that for 2 different companies. Worked for them for, yeah, just over 8 years on both of those. But I knew probably from the first business that I worked in that one day I'd go out on my own and start my own business. And the reason I knew that is because I saw someone do it. So I saw somebody who I looked up to very much in that business. They left and started on their own, and I essentially copied them throughout my whole time there. I was like, you're my mentor. And still to this day, we're in touch, and I run big decisions by him for my business and yeah, things moving forwards. But I wasn't quite ready yet. So I knew I had to probably get a bit more, yeah, experience under my belt. So I left that business and went to experience something else. And I'm very glad I did because that other business taught me a whole different way of working and a new set of skills that I didn't know I had. I was also placed in a business which was achieving a lot more. So in the first business, I thought the ceiling was there. Actually, the ceiling was much higher. So I went to that business and learned off probably better recruiters, essentially. And then it was 2023. I eventually went out on my own and started 106. Now it's a pretty scary place, I think, a time to do it. Everyone told me not to do it. The market wasn't in a great place. But my feeling was I've got all the skills. If I can do it in this market, I can do it any time. So I took the leap and went for it. And I'm so glad I did. And honestly, it's the best decision I've ever made. Um, and it's yeah changed my life in ways I never knew were possible. So it's been absolutely game changing for me. So I wanted to give you some honest truth, and I'm sure there's lots of founders who've been on here who've said the same things. There's some great things about being a founder and running your own business, and there's also some terrible things in there as well. For me, the biggest thing that I enjoy is freedom of choice, and what I really mean by that is I'm really addicted to be able to wake up, think of an idea, implement that idea today, and see if it works out. There's no, I need to go run it by somebody. There's no, I need to ask for permission. If you've got an idea, you can implement it exactly there, try it out. If it doesn't work, that's fine. That's on me. But at least I had the opportunity to try it. So some things work, some things don't. I'm very much addicted to that process. I love having that full ownership, and not everyone will enjoy that because you're going to make mistakes as you go along, and you almost need to detach from that outcome and go, mistakes are going to happen. That's absolutely fine, but I'm going to own the whole thing. So the wins are mine, the losses are mine, etc., etc. But that can weigh heavy if you're somebody who, yeah, mistakes are, yeah, you find that difficult. And I'll be honest, I was very much in that place. I was typical sort of millennial where we're trying to people please people all the time, and if I made a mistake I would take that very much on board. So you have to work on that, and it's easier said than done, right, to detach from the outcome, and you'll get better at that. It's like a muscle, you'll get better at that as you go along. But the biggest thing for me, and you guys might be too young to even think about this, but it makes my life work around my family. So I've got two daughters, I've got a fiance, we get married in July, and the freedom I have to be there for every single assembly for them, to do school drop-offs, to yeah, be there when they need me has been huge. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I don't get that balance right. Sometimes I'm too work focused, sometimes I'm too family focused, and the business suffers as well. So there's a real balance to be had there. So there's some highs. The tough bits are it's lonely. So you could be running a business of 100 people, and I sit around the table with people who are running those businesses, but they find it very lonely. They're the ones where the buck stops with them. They're having to look after their staff, but no one's really looking after them. They're expected to just pay the wages, make sure the business is running well. And you see it in the news, and sometimes it's yeah, it's needed. But I guess sometimes in the news when a business goes bust, there's real eyes on the founder and going, what have you done wrong here? And they didn't mean it to go bust quite often, but sometimes when it does, you're in trouble, right? You've let those people down. So having that weight on your shoulders can be a really lonely place sometimes. And I think it's really important to have a network of people that are there to support you. And I think it's actually really important to have a network of people of other founders in your network because yes, you'll have your family, yes, you'll have your friends, but maybe they won't quite always understand what you're going through. You could say it to your friends, I'm having a really tough time with it. They go, you're fine. You're running your own business. I'm sure you're loaded, which is another thing where you probably don't make as much money as you think running a business, at least not to start with anyway. So it's lonely. And it's, yeah, it could be lonely at the top. It's a huge risk. And quite often, there isn't a safety net to pick you up. You need to be comfortable taking that risk. I am actually by nature quite risk averse, but I get to a point where I go, okay, now it makes sense. So if I go back to what's Tanya before, I could have taken the risk and run the business after I worked for my first recruitment business. Felt like I wasn't quite ready. I need to get some additional skills. Then it felt ready. You'll probably know in your gut when the time is right to take that leap. But it will always be there. The risk will always be there. There will be a perfect time. You'll just need to go for it. And almost counter to my point that I said there, freedom of choice, decision fatigue can come in. So every minute of every day, you're making decisions which is impacting people, both your clients, both your the product, both the people that that you're responsible for, your employees as well. So you're doing that on a daily basis, and that can become a lot. It really can. So yeah, there's some good and bad, and it's important to know that going in, I guess. So what do I see for the future now, and what do I think it's going to progress into? So it has never been easier or quicker to get a product to market. With AI, I'm talking mostly in the tech world, right? I'm talking to developers and founders who have developed products that would usually take them 3 months to come up with an MVP, so a minimal viable product. It's taken them less than a month now. So it is super quick to get a product to market, which means the barrier to entry has definitely come down. There are some bad points with that as well. There's a lot of noise out there in the minute, and it's maybe a bit harder to break through that noise as well. I think we'll have a lot of people, especially from your generation, coming through starting micro businesses, because the barrier to start a new role, start a new company is low. I think we'll have lots of people go into there, and I think actually people's motives to start a business will be different. And maybe similar to mine. So my motive for 106 is I'm not building it to sell. I'm not making this big exit. If it happens, great. What I'm building it for is to benefit my life and my family's life. So I'm not out there grafting for 5 years, hoping for this big sell at the end of it and missing my kids grow up. I'm actually making the business work about me and my family. And I think that will become, more of the norm coming through. And there's some other stuff playing into that as well. The market is actually still quite poor for employment. The news at the moment is, employment's at its highest for 5 years, especially in the tech market. Companies are operating much smaller because of AI, and the economy is still not great as well. So I think we'll have lots of people going into those micro businesses, which I think is great. I think it's a really, really cool thing. And when I talk to founders around the founders lunch table, and I like to hear about their journey, the one thing they always tell me is that you need to go all in. So you might have 5 different ideas maybe that you're thinking about, and some people might be running those 5 different ideas at one time. At some point, you need to pick one and really run with it. If you're trying to run 2 businesses and seeing what works out, but you'll probably end up in a place where neither of them do. Doesn't always happen. There's always exceptions to that rule. But from the founders that I hear from, you need to go all in on that, give it some real time and real effort, and see where you get to as well. One thing that came to me yesterday as well was that I actually had a previous founder, who's also a developer, come to me and basically pitch me their product, their business, because he wants me to come on board as a co-founder into that. And I've been sat on that last evening and in today, trying to think about the product. And one thing that came to mind was, can you clearly define a problem, first of all? If you watch Dragon's Den, you see it all the time. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? And every founder will give you that advice, but it's really important that you can say that super clearly. If you find yourself describing that problem or the problem you solve, and it's taking you a couple of minutes to get there, it's probably not the right problem, or you haven't articulated the problem properly, or you haven't got down to the actual root cause of it. So you really need to be able to easily define that problem that you're trying to solve. And on the flip side of that, your product or service needs to sound like an easy fix to that. So you need to describe that where you fix that problem super easily to a person who probably wouldn't even be in that industry, right? And needs to be in, a few lines to how you solve that problem. When I've come away from that pitch, I think he's got a good idea. I'm not sure that the problem's clearly defined yet, but I'm mostly concerned about the easy fix. Could I explain what that product does to fix that problem? I couldn't when I was talking to my fiance about it last night. I was going around the houses, which made me go, okay, probably not there just yet. Doesn't mean it's not the right thing. You just need to really boil that down a little bit more. Network, we spoke about this earlier. Network is everything as well. I also ran an event last week called The Big Pitch, where we had people who were startups, had an idea, maybe developed an MVP, and we had 4 people come up on the stage and pitch that business to the room. There were some investors in there, there were some other founders who had been there and done it, and they were pitching basically to get some feedback on that. One of the people that we had speaking before those pitches was somebody who's just gone through the funding process for their tech startup. And someone asked her, how did you get that funding? What was the most important thing? And she said, I went to 1,000,001 pitching events. I went to 1,000,001 investors. In the end, it was somebody that I knew referred me to somebody else, and that's how I got the funding. So really, I could have saved all that time. So if you don't have that network, work on that now. Get in the room with these people, go to these events, start talking to other founders, asking for advice, being a sponge. People will want to help you. That will pay dividends further down the line. Put yourself in the room with people who will be able to help. They're going to help you get funded. They're going to help your business moving forwards as well. So events are all over the place now. Try and get to them if you possibly can. LinkedIn's also a great place to do that too. And my advice is, yeah, I think everyone should try building something at some point, or going out on your own and trying to build a service or whatever it might be. You'll learn so much about yourself. You'll learn so much about business. Uh, you know, the likelihood is, if we look at the stats, you'll probably fail first time. Hopefully you don't, but you might well do. So try and detach yourself from that outcome, give it everything, but know that it might fail and that's okay. Okay. The biggest thing I would say when you're starting that business is define what you want from that business. So again, when I'm sitting around the founder's lunch table, I see lots of founders trapped, in their business. They are maybe not enjoying it as much as they thought they would. Maybe the business hasn't developed into what they wanted it to be, and it's become a bit of a beast. And it's like, well, how do I stop this ball rolling down the hill? And it's because they haven't had regular check-ins with themselves to go, am I getting what I want out of this business? And how do I make sure that I get what I want out of this business in the future? Okay. So try and define that as you go. You won't know all the answers when you start. I remember having conversations with people saying, where do you want to get to in 5 years? Haven't got a clue. Do you know what? First year, I just want to survive. Then after that first year, things get a bit more real and you get opportunities to ask those questions to yourself again. Okay. So make sure you're doing that regular check-in. Otherwise, you could find yourself in 5 and 10 years time in a business which you can't sell, you're not enjoying working in, and it's taking up all your time, and maybe you're not making as much money as you want out of it. But make sure you try and have those conversations. That's pretty much all I had for today, really. So yeah, welcome any questions, short and sweet, but hopefully there's a few golden nuggets in there for people as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam. I think there definitely was, and thanks for being so honest. I think it's always good when founders talk. Obviously, it's great to celebrate successes, but also it's good to get a dose of realism in there as well. So I've got a sort of couple of questions maybe to kick us off, and then obviously anyone on the call, as we say, if you'd like to put any questions in the chat, I've got the chat open so I can relay them to Adam. Do you want to stop sharing, Adam? Will that be
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem.
easier?
There we go.
Yeah. So I suppose my first question would be around maybe, so you've been running now for what's it, you're in your third year, so
That's right.
2.5 years. What how have things changed for you since you first started out? Was it just you originally? Do you have any team around you at the moment, or is it still you focusing on the
It's,
business?
it's still me, and that
Hmm.
was on purpose. So when I first started, I was always planning it to be me or a little micro business.
Hmm.
I've definitely had ego kick in at some point, Caroline, where I've gone, I'm going to build this business into something bigger. Um, but the more I spend time around other recruitment founders as well who've tried to do that and maybe haven't succeeded, I go, I'm not sure if I want that for my business. So I'm not looking for this big sell now. What I'm working at is getting to a number for a savings piece and an investment piece to maybe eventually bow out at some point. Now, I do have a plan at some point to run a tech company, and I'd like to do that with somebody else, hence why I was having these conversations. But for 106, it probably would be just me for, yeah, the majority.
Yeah. So 106 and also the tech lunches and things, it's a good way for you as well, is it, to network and see what's what maybe what the trends are out there and what type of tech business you might like to get involved in.
Yeah, 100%. I love creating communities. So I run a dev community as well called Walks Dev. We do the founders lunches. It's a great place for me to learn. I build value by building connections with these people. Let's all be honest as well. These are the people that might become clients of mine. So I get them in a room. I don't sell to them, but we give them value and they start to see you as a real person rather than just the face of a business, which massively helps. And from actually my dev community, that's where I've had these conversations about, potentially working alongside one of these developers to run a tech business. So if you surround yourself with these people, opportunities come your way, which, as a lad on the council estate, I did not think I'd be sat there being pitched to run a tech business at the age of 34. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it sounds it. And is it mostly Midlands based companies that
No,
you're working with?
I work nationwide, so I think we'd probably still say 60 to 70% are probably Midlands based businesses, but yeah, we work as far down south as Cornwall, as high as Scotland. So the nature of remote working now is that we can work pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. And how are most people finding you? Is there a lot of referrals?
Yeah, a lot of referrals in that space. The first year is different. So the first year was heavy sales, which again, you've got to make sure you get those sales in to start with. That first year is survival. Can you make it work? So it was heavily phone based, going out to meet people as much as possible. Now that we're in our third year, don't have to do that as much. And the business throws up different problems where you're trying to manage your time to achieve expectations of clients as well and much more on delivery. But you're right, at the moment, a lot of referrals coming through. LinkedIn's a great place for me as well. So I build my personal brand on LinkedIn a lot. And also the communities I create. Again, people meet you, you come to mind when they need you. And yeah,
Yeah.
that helps too.
And what type of roles are you recruiting? Is there any change in those over time or?
Yeah, there is a change and it's constantly changing. So last year, 60% of the roles that we hired for were developers. And then we had infrastructure engineers, product managers, project managers in there as well. But what we're finding at the moment is it's really tough for those juniors to break through into the market because of AI, especially within development at the moment, because the AI is producing a lot of the code that perhaps maybe a junior developer would do. So there's big demand for the senior developers, but less so for the juniors, which does make me worry for the future for the
Mm,
industry. And obviously, we've seen a lot more AI roles come through as well, so AI engineers,
yeah,
especially with startups.
yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I'll go to the chat. We've got a couple of questions on there.
Sure.
So Ishak's asking you, can you see the chat, Adam?
I can.
Okay, yeah,
See the
yeah.
chat.
So obviously you can see there, Ishak is asking you from obviously networking with the founders, your views on sort of what you think has got the most potential in today's market.
It's a really hard one to answer, because there is a million and one things you can do. But for me, So at the big pitch, we had a pitch around somebody solving a system issue within dentists, which sounds incredibly boring. But actually, those boring businesses for me are the places where you can make real change with technology at the moment, because they'll be stuck on systems that they've been using for 20, 30 years. And there's a real opportunity there to go into that with AI, with all the new processes you've got in place to change that. But in reality, any business can work. You just need to be able to solve that problem better than anyone else. So there's so much opportunity out there. So I wouldn't be confined into that space. And I'd also lean into what you know, right? I went for recruitment because that's what I know. If I went into running a tech business, it might be a recruitment tech business, for example. If you lean into what you know, you stand more of a chance, or at least team up with somebody who maybe knows that industry really well. So the dentist had already developed a piece of software and sold it into the dentist industry. This new piece of software was going to cover off a much broader spectrum of problems, but he already knew the industry, right? So he knew the problems there, could really articulate them really well. His pitch was less than 5 minutes, and I understood the problem and the product in those 5 minutes. So if you can do that, great.
Yeah, sounds good. So Samar's asking you, I think it's maybe how when you were first starting out, I guess, when you're first going out on your own, how you overcome that, maybe the fear of failure, I suppose.
Yeah, it never leaves you. So it's always there, and actually that is I turned that into a bit of a motivator. I've always been motivated by that. So even when I wasn't running my own business, this is probably not the best motivator to have, but I was always worried about this could all go away tomorrow. And maybe that's because I've come from a council estate background and sort of had nothing. I didn't want to go back there. So I was like, this could all go away tomorrow. But what that did, it really incentivized me to work super hard. Now, to answer your question, I guess, Samar, you won't get over that fear. There will always be a worry that things won't work, but there'll probably be, in my experience, something in the back of your mind that goes, yeah, okay, now's the time. And don't be silly with it. Like, I made sure I had some savings there to keep me going for a little bit as well. There was a bit of protection to give me some thinking time to run the business. So I had probably about 6 months worth of money put aside to really go at the business. Because the last thing you want to do is you dive into a business and you've got no runway of money to sustain you, and you've got to be making sales from day one. If that's the case, you're going to make really terrible decisions and maybe work with people you wouldn't work with, maybe work in markets that you didn't want to work in. And then a year down the line, you've got a totally different business than what you first envisioned. So try and give yourself some space and some backing of money, at least maybe, or whether that be support from family and friends that might give you that money to support you for a bit to make better educated decisions where you're not stressed about, okay, if I make this decision today and I don't make sales tomorrow, I'm in trouble. You want to be a bit more longer term thinking than that.
Brilliant, thank you. So Ishak has got another question. I think you touched on this a little bit, Adam, but obviously from the marketing perspective, how did you sort of land your first few clients?
Well, I actually did a LinkedIn post on this yesterday,
Oh,
funny
okay.
enough. So feel free to go on LinkedIn and have a look. But when I first started, I actually I defined 15 founders that I wanted to work with in the market. So I researched them and said, yeah, they're the type of people I want to work with. I wrote them all a handwritten letter, sort of describing my journey, what I was looking to do. And then I was a little bit quirky. And then each one of those letter envelopes, I put a little plastic foot. And what that basically was to get my foot in the door, right? So I was using lots of puns. It's silly, doesn't really make any sense. But what it does, it's what we call a pattern interrupt. So if you open that and you see a foot, you go, what is this? You open the letter, you read the letter, you're probably going to share that around the office. Like, look what this crazy man Adam's just sent me. And then the benefit then is all in the follow-up. So they're still unlikely to call you straight off that letter. You then need to call them and say, hey, it's Adam.
Crazy foot guy.
Exactly. Tell me if I'm talking complete nonsense, but I'm the guy who sent you the foot. And it's a great way into a bit of a laugh. They really appreciate it. And that was my first client, and we got our first 10K fee through the door. And away we went. And I've run that campaign 4 times since, and every time we've run it, we've come away with a new client. So sometimes old school, Really works. And
Yeah.
being personable.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? You're running a tech, or you're recruiting tech people, but you're going a bit old school on the approach there. And maybe that's because not that you don't get many letters, do you, these days? So it's a bit of a novelty.
Yeah, the biggest advice I ever got was if people are zigging, you zag. So do something different to what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. Was that from you mentioned the previous person who branched out by themselves? Is that sort of from your mentor and
It wasn't
advisor?
from him actually, but what I got from him was the community-based stuff. So he always built communities, um, which they're fun to do and it's massively helped his business. So yeah, that's what I took from him.
Yeah. It's interesting because obviously you think of recruitment being quite a cutthroat
Yeah. Yeah.
industry, but you're sort of countering that then with your community feel.
Well, that's the thing, again, it's got a really bad image. And the whole point, I don't want to swear on here, but the whole point is people think that I'm not an idiot or something worse. And when they meet you in person, they go, actually, yeah, Adam's an okay guy. He's a normal person. So from a marketing perspective, getting in the room with these people, giving them a bit of value, really breaks down those walls quite a lot.
Brilliant. So Kanye has put a question in the chat. So yeah, just on your point about that you're getting more roles perhaps for senior tech people, but are you still seeing sort of roles coming through for more junior developer, or is it more just on the developer side that you're noticing that?
It's on all sides. Developers have been
Mhm.
hit particularly hard. Look, I know I'm talking to students here, and this is difficult, but it is way harder than it ever has been for juniors to step into the tech industry. I actually gave a talk about this to a training company before, and I've got a whole presentation about how you can, yeah, take control of your job search when you're trying to get into the tech industry. So if anybody wants that or wants to have a look at the system I suggested, feel free to catch up with me afterwards. I'm sure we can distribute some contact details. But no, it's really difficult at the moment. It's AI is definitely seems to be taking that space quite a lot for juniors. Companies are, like I said, working on much smaller teams, running at a very fast pace, and less companies are prepared at the moment to bring on a junior and settle for the ramp up time it takes to get them really productive. And look, it massively makes me worry about the future of the tech industry because when somebody comes to me in 3 years' time and said, "Oh, we want someone with, 3 or 4 years experience," I said, "Well, there's hardly any, and the good ones have been snapped up." There is still good news. So there are some really good candidates still getting into the industry. You just need to work harder than ever before to do it.
Or maybe you have do some internships, try and get as much sort of experience as you can in different companies.
Any sort of experience you can get is great. So if you're doing a placement year, fantastic. That's really good. Internships, fantastic, really good. Some else said there around, can you tell your business model in short? Is that sorry, Samar, is that for how to get a job when you have just come out of university? Or is that my business model for 106? I don't know if Samar, she's typing. My business model. Okay, cool. I'll go through that in a second, so I'll just round this off. And Ishak's also said it's the same for cybersec community.
Mhm.
Similar for cybersec community, security has been a space that lots of people want to get into. It's really highly competitive. Juniors can still get in, but it is still tough out there. So yeah, it's hard. You've got to work hard. You've got to put yourself out there. You've got to get in the room with these people. You've got to put yourself out there on social media, on LinkedIn, example. If you want me to talk to me more about that, grab me afterwards. I'm happy to do that. My business model, my recruitment is incredibly simple as a business model, right? So my business model is working with really good clients who see me as a partner. That's the only chance I have of working with them. I now only work exclusively with customers. So sometimes in recruitment, what people will do is say, we'll work with 3 recruiters, we'll tell them all to go find a developer, and those 3 recruiters go off and give them some candidates. The problem for me is that causes what I would like to call fastest finger first. So there's less quality in it. Everyone's competing against each other. They find the quickest 3 candidates they can and send them back to try and give themselves the biggest chance. What I say is work with me exclusively. I'll run a real quality campaign. I'll video call every single candidate that comes through. It means you're not just getting the three quickest CVs that I can find, so you get the best people on the market. And then I run a shortlist meeting to do that. And then I get paid a fee on the success of that hire. I've also created a new payment model where companies can, rather than paying a big one-off fee, they can spread the cost over 12 months installments. So it means that I get a bit more recurring revenue. I charge them slightly higher to do that, but it means for the cash flow perspective of the business, they can spread the cost out and it isn't a massive hit on their cash. I may have explained that poorly, but that's typically the business model that I'm in.
No, I understand that. Yeah. Is that did you introduce that new model with when you were working with maybe some of the slightly smaller businesses?
So I knew that I was going to do that model when I started on my own. So none of my
Right.
previous businesses had done that. My ideal customer profile is that founder between 5 and 100 heads
Mhm.
of the business. So it works really well for them. So they've got an eye on the cash flow all the time. So for them, it works really well. But we've also had some really big companies use it as well. So people might know like Skiddle, the ticketing company where you buy tickets to gigs and festivals. So they use that as well. So
Mhm. Yeah, I suppose like you said, it helps with their cash flow as well as with your own.
yeah, exactly. And it means that I can take a step away from the business and I'm not relying on those big one-off fees. If I go away on my honeymoon, for example, there's still money coming into the business.
Yeah, and maybe alleviate some of the problems around getting paid on time.
Yeah, touch wood, I've been very lucky with that. But yeah,
Mhm.
it definitely doesn't always go smooth.
Yeah. So I think we're coming towards the end of the session. It's been really, really good. And actually, maybe we can pick up. Well, either you can people can link with you on LinkedIn, perhaps, if they want to follow up with you on some of the um, information that you've spoken about here.
Yeah, I'm more than
Um,
happy to. Yeah.
yeah. So maybe just looking a little bit to the future then, Adam. And you sort of said that you didn't have a huge plan, particularly in the first year, but now you're a little bit more established. Obviously, you've spoken about that you'd like to maybe launch your own tech business at some stage. Do you see that as running alongside 106?
I think to start with, but
Hmm.
again, it sort of counters my point of what I said earlier about going all in, right? So at some point, there'll be a decision to have to be made there because you can't run two businesses that are making profit simultaneously if you're hands on. So it'll either be we bring someone else into 106 that runs that day to day, and then means I can focus on the tech side of things, or it might be that I make smaller investments into tech businesses and maybe don't run them, but involved in them from a maybe a board capacity. So it needs less of my time, um, but there's still a reward there if that tech company sells in the future for me.
Right. Okay. So you've got a few options
Yeah,
that
a
you're
few
looking
different
at.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. And we've got a question on the chat. Um, customer success and data.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions in there. So is there any
Mhm.
opportunities that see in the intersection of customer success and data, tilting more towards the data? Business knowledge differs from company to company or industry. Okay, so let's answer that first question first of all. So yeah, there sort of is. So the biggest place I see that happening is um, maybe not so much customer success, but stakeholder management. So quite a lot of the time when you are maybe a Power BI analyst is actually a lot of your time isn't doing the actual data side of it. A lot of your time is talking to stakeholders, understanding the requirements of what they want from the reports, what data do they want to see, what story do they want to tell with that data, and then you might go away and produce the report. So I haven't seen it where there's a product and you're doing a lot of that data stuff, but I have seen it internally where you're talking to senior stakeholders, doing the more of the stakeholder management, and then going away and doing that data piece to produce those reports that they've asked for. So that sort of thing exists. How do you convince recruiters that you have transferable skills? I'll be really honest, recruiters is probably not the best people for you to be talking to at this point. So recruiters, we are often be deployed for very difficult to find skill sets, right? And that's typically people maybe who've been in the industry for a long time or really, really difficult to find. If you are junior, enter the market, talk to a few different recruiters, maybe, but you're not convincing the recruiter. The recruiter's been given a brief and they have to deliver that brief. So you can try and convince the recruiter to the cows come home. The recruiter's been given the brief and they have to follow that brief. The best thing for you to do as a junior is associate yourself with more of the hiring managers of those businesses. So it might be a founder, it might be a data manager, a marketing manager, whatever it might be that your industry tried to break into. They're the people you need to convince, less so the recruiters. You need to go direct to source on that stuff.
Great. I think that's really, really good advice, actually, isn't it? Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, so I think we'll draw the chat to a close now, Adam. Thank you so much
No problem.
for joining us. And there's been some really useful bits of information. And I think everybody who's joined us on the call today and those who are going to be watching it later on would do well to sort of to take heed of what you're saying, and maybe if they'd like to link with you on LinkedIn, maybe drop you a note to say that you've attended this session and just want
Yeah, of
some
course.
follow-up information from there.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all. Yeah, if anyone wants to speak to me, LinkedIn's the best place to find me. So yeah, no problem.
Brilliant. Great. Well, I'll let you get on with the rest of your day and hope you start to feel a bit better soon.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Speak
Thanks,
soon.
everybody.
Bye bye.